put all this together, and how great is it that we have such a wonderful, group of elders and group of people here in Preacher that are so willing to help and do whatever they can for you and help you through this walk through life and grow as Christians. And that's actually what we're going to mainly focus on here today too, is growing as Christians and our walk with God, and how Abraham walked with God, and what our friendship should truly be with Christ. So many people have been said to have walked with God throughout the Bible. So many have been told that they walked with God and stood upright with Him and were truly just amazing men. Deuteronomy 5:33 says, "You shall walk in all the way which the Lord your God has commanded you, that you may live and that you may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land that you will possess." Living as God commanded you will prolong your days. Living with Him and walking in His ways is truly the way to be. When you look at all the different men that said walk with God, Enoch in 5:22, it says that he lived 300 years, or 365 years. Verse 22 through 24, it says, Enoch walked with God 300 years after he fathered Methuselah, and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, he was not, for God took him. 365 years. How many days are in a year? 365. He lived 365 years, and all of that he walked with God. Obviously, in Deuteronomy it says, "So prolong your years." He definitely prolonged Enoch's years by many. Noah walked with God as well, and just over in 6:9, it says that Noah walked blameless in his generation. He was the only one that God could not find fault in, so much that He chose Noah to be the one to save the human race because he was blameless. 6:9 says, "The records of the generation of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time, and Noah walked with God." Every person that you see walk with God had such a close and intimate relationship with Him. David, 1 Kings 9:4, when his sons are being spoke to after David has passed and given the commandments and how they should act, it clearly says, "If you walk before me as your father David walked, in integrity, heart, and uprightness, doing all according that I have commanded to you, and keep my statutes and my witnesses." David walked upright with God. Through his flaws, through his sins, he walked with God and always kept God at the forefront. He was hand in hand with God through it all, and always repenting and being with Him. And that's amazing to think that they walked with God, but walking with God is certainly an impressive feat, but only two men will ever have truly been called, the friend of God. Moses has told that God spoke him face to face as man with his friend. They had such a connection with each other that while leading his people, he talked with him as a friend. Abraham, the scripture was fulfilled, saying that Abraham believed in God, reckoned to him as righteousness, and was called the friend of God. Abraham was directly called a friend of God because he believed and he had never had a straying thought. These men built a friendship with God based on God's righteousness and his undying faith. God never once lied to them. God never led them astray. He never sent them into anything that He didn't tell them about prior to. And it's because of the righteousness of God that He had definitely, their obedience was very clear. That God's not going to send us into anything that we can't save, and God's not going to send us into a battle that we can't be delivered from. Their obedience was spot on there with God. And because of their obedience, they had such devotion and such a leadership of want to worship God that they led the people in the way they would go. This morning we're going to focus on Abraham because without Abraham, there wouldn't be a church. Abraham was the start, and he was the patriarch in which that Christ would come down from. We first meet Abraham when he was 75 years old. Definitely not a young man. He was commanded by God to leave his home, to leave his father's house, and to go find a new land that He had commanded. Hebrews 11:8 says, "By faith Abraham, when he was called to obey, to go out to a place and receive an inheritance, and he went out and not knowing where he was going." He was sent into the black. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know what was happening. He didn't know anything about this land. All that he knew was God said that he had to leave. And, there wasn't a question to it. The Genesis account of it is Genesis 12:1. Now the Lord said to Abraham, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I show you. 75 years old. It's not necessarily young, even in those standards. 75 years old, having everything that you ever could have right in front of you, your land, your father's house, your relatives, and you're told, I want you to go to this new land. Well, we know what the land is. We knew that land was going to be prosperous, but to Abraham, it was just, something he had never seen. It could have been barren. It could have been filled with famine. It could have had people in it. It could have been run over. But, there was never a question to God's methods. Abraham said, all right, God, I'm there. We're going. Let's pack up and leave. And so we did. And the crazy thing about it is Abraham came from a house which wasn't necessarily, worshiping the one true God. It says pretty clearly that his family served other gods and were pagan. In Joshua 24:2, it speaks about his family worshiping other gods. Joshua said to the people, thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, from ancient times your fathers lived behind the river, namely Terah, father of Abraham, father of Nahor, and they served other gods. So Abraham comes from a background which many of us probably relate to, that some of us weren't raised in the church and we knew other ways, but when we came to God, we understood that we had to leave. We had to leave those ways. Abraham was called upon to God, and there was no other option. It was, we're going to leave because I was spoke to by God and I was commanded to. So he took his family and he left without a question. So as they traveled through, there was definitely some hardship there. The land had a famine going through it. There was a lot of dangerous places to pass through, but he finally got to the land of promise, and he settled. Hebrews 11:9-10 says, by faith he lived as an alien in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs to the same promise. For he was looking for a city which had foundations, whose architect and builder was God. He established his family in the land, and all that he had to that land was the promise of God, the same thing that he had lived on. Genesis 13:7 pretty much said that, wherever your footsteps, it's promise. Arise, walk about the land for its length and breadth, for I will give it to you. Wherever your footsteps, Abraham, is yours. I will promise this to you, and your people will raise it and live in it. All that Abraham had was a promise of God, was the word of God. And it was in that trust and in that devotion that he had that he just kept trusting. He just kept going with it. There was never a question. There was never, well, God, I'm 75 years old. My wife is also, well, God, I don't know where that is. And I hear there's a famine going through Egypt and never cross either. Well, God, how often does something struggling come up and we have to make the decision of our choice, and we sit there and we question a lot instead of just having a promise and just having faith in God. Abraham just said, all right, we're off, we're going. He became the foundation of God's nation just because he never questioned it. He went wherever God had commanded him to. He always was willing to serve God. And that's why, he was blindly following without a question. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. He didn't have to see it to trust God. When Abraham was 99, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am the God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless, and I will make a covenant between you and me, and I will increase your numbers greatly. Continuing on that, it says, Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you will be a father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but you will be called Abraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. Abraham is so humble too. God comes to him and says, walk before me blameless. 99 years old, says, I can't find a fault to call you out on. You've done everything that I've asked you to. You've never questioned me. Walk before me blameless. What does Abraham do? He falls down on his face, and God still, he doesn't necessarily talk at him or command him. He talks directly to him, saying, I will make this covenant with you. I'm going to make another promise with you that I will raise you into many nations, and from you many blessings will come. So, I mean, this is where the first real command or first promise that he is given, that he will become the father of many nations. And he's 99. I mean, we know that he had a son Ishmael, but the son of promise still hadn't been born. And at 99 years old, there wasn't a question, well, God, how's this going to happen if I still don't have the son of promise? So it was, I will still praise your name and I will still follow you. And his faith pleased God. He was always very obedient. God never had to tell him, not to worry. Abraham never really worried. He just knew that he was going to be taken care of. And he made that covenant with God on pure faith. Again, I mean, there was nothing to say that everything was going to come to happen. It was the same thing when he left Haran. It was 24 years prior to, God came to him and said, I want you to leave with everything you have and go to this new place. And now I'm going to raise you to a multitude of nations, and you're going to stay here and you're going to dwell. So, we're at 99 years old here. It's been 24 years, and around that same time is when he's finally promised his son. Genesis 18:10-12 said, I will return to you at this time next year, and behold, Sarah, your wife, will have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and advanced in age. Sarah was past the years of childbearing. Sarah laughed at herself, saying, after I become old, shall I have pleasure in my Lord being old also? Abraham and Sarah were clearly past the age of having children, and it didn't look too good on the childbearing front. But Abraham always had the faith that God was going to take care of them. And the crazy thing we look at it was Sarah was with Abraham when they left Haran, when they left everything. And they survived through the famines, and they survived through Egypt, they survived through everything. And Abraham has this undying faith. Even though Sarah has also seen everything, her faith wasn't quite there. She just laughed and said, we're old, we're not having kids. It can't happen. And Abraham also didn't say, Lord, I'm 100 years old. I don't think I can handle a newborn. There's none of this. I don't know if you can do this. We're old. She's old. I don't think she can handle childbearing. I don't know if you can bear a child. I don't know if you can keep up with kids. It's just a consistent, all right, it's going to happen. So finally, a year later, the promises of God is fulfilled. The Lord took note of Sarah, and he said, as he said he would. And the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. So Sarah conceived and bore a son. Abraham in his old age at the appointed time of which God had told him. Abraham named the son who was born to him, who Sarah bore him Isaac. So here we are. We first met Abraham at 75 years old. So he's 25 years old. He's told to leave, not knowing what's going to happen. He finally gets his promise. He finally gets his son. 100 years old. People get to their 30s and they have a kid and they start to worry, am I too old for this? Or the 40s, am I too old for this? Here they are, 100 years old, and they have a newborn. Not a question, not a sigh, not how are we going to do this? We're old. It's right there. We're going to be taken care of, and everything's going to be okay. This is the son of promise too. They made it very clear that this is going to be the son that for all nations were raised. It's part of the descendancy that they knew. But it's so amazing that Sarah had seen everything and gone through everything, and she didn't think it was going to happen. And even when God had called her out on this thing, you did laugh, and you didn't think it was going to happen. You do not think this is possible. And, Sarah ended up saying, it made a fool out of me because God can do all things. So he's told to leave his homeland. He does it. He's given a newborn child at 100, and he does it. Things never really got easier for Abraham. God kept the tests coming, and he kept things going for Abraham just to make sure it was trial by fire. Abraham didn't know the things that were about to happen to him, but God was making sure that Abraham was going to be just enough, to be strong enough, to be worthy enough to be the father of all nations. So, the true final test came in Genesis 22 when God asked Abraham to give his newborn son, whom he waited decades for, and was 100 years old when he bore, as a sacrifice. So here it is in Genesis 22 when the Lord comes to him and said, "Take now your son, your only son, whom you love Isaac, and go to the land and offer him as a burnt offering on the mountains which I will tell you." To kind of put a pause there, the tests keep coming, and he's saying, "Well, I know that you waited 25 years for the son, but you're going to have to go give him up as a burnt offering now. And don't you know why? I don't even tell you why. I just want you to go do it. Just go where I command you to do it." And Abraham has no question. And the thing that always kind of gets me here is Abraham got up early the next morning to go. There wasn't a question. It was, all right, get up early. Let's get on the donkeys. I'll take 2 men with me. I'll drop wood here. So he does. Abraham rose early the next morning, saddled his donkey, took his young men and his son Isaac, and split the wood with the burnt offering, and rose and went to the place which God told him. Again, Abraham doesn't question, Lord, this is the son that I waited 25 years for. This is the son that I left Haran for. This is everything you ever promised me and everything that you were ever going to give me. Okay, let's get up early next morning. Let's go. We're going to get there, and everything's going to come how you want it to. And I can imagine how it was for Isaac. They just thought they were going to go up there. Abraham told him, there's going to be an animal there for us to sacrifice them for. So Isaac was just going, not having any idea what was going to happen. So they get to the mountain, and it's time, for the sacrifice, to take place. And here it is that they're on the mountain, and he has them on the wood, and it's definitely time to see what's going to happen between God and Isaac in the sacrifice. In verses 9 through 12, it says, "They came to the place of which God had told them, and Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood, and bound his son Isaac and laid him on the wood. Abraham stretched his hand out and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called from heaven and said, 'Abraham, Abraham.' And he said, 'Here I am.' He said, 'Do not stretch your hand out against the boy and do nothing to him. For now I know you fear God, since you have withheld yourself. When we were writing this, I was talking to Billy. He's like, the only thing I can really think to imagine this to is like when you come up to a green light, all of a sudden it goes from yellow to red before a split second. Abraham has his hand up, and he's ready to go. And it's almost like it's coming down, and God just says, no, stop. It's like slamming on your brakes and having to shift down really fast so you don't hit something in front of you. So Abraham had a knife in the sun up. So here it is. This was all just a test. And, he gets to keep his son. And from God's perspective, this is all just kind of seeing, how far is Abraham willing to go for me? What is he going to do? God knew that Abraham had done everything to this point, but how far is he willing to go for my name's sake? What will he do? This is his only son. This is the son of promise. The only other time that we see someone offering up their son for a sacrifice, their only son, was when God put Christ on the cross. So it's almost like we're telling them, if Abraham is willing to do what I'm willing to do, then he must be the father of many nations. And that's God's perspective. And we think, I can't imagine what it'd be like if someone asked me to take Harper up and put her on there. I can't imagine what anyone would do, their only son, their only child, up for a sacrifice. But when you look at the Hebrews account of it, it really gives you Abraham's perspective, how much he concerned about and loved him. Hebrews 11, 17 to 19, by faith Abraham, he was tested, offered up Isaac, who had received the promise, was offering up his only begotten son. It was to whom it said, "And Isaac your descendants shall be called." He considered to God to be able to raise people from the dead, from which he had received them back as a test. So here, from Abraham's perspective, he thought, if I have to do this, God's either going to give me another son, or he's going to raise this son from the dead. He's going to do what he has to do to fulfill his promise. It wasn't in God's character to lie, and it wasn't in God's character to cheat Abraham. From Abraham's perspective, he hadn't been lied to so far, he hadn't been cheated. Everything that God said he had done. He left Haran for a new land, and the land was there. He was told he was going to have a son at 100 years old, and he had a son to the date which God said at 100 years old. So he figured, God's going to raise him from the dead if he has to. He had never seen God raise anybody from the dead, but he believed with such faith, with such passion, that he was going to be taken care of. And he was. I mean, this was just a test. He didn't have to do, something that none of us can truly imagine doing. And this is where it finally decided that, Abraham, will be the father of many nations. You see just later on in 22:18, he talks, in your seed all the earth shall be blessed, because you obeyed my voice. Abraham was, if you wanted to look at it as a tree, he was the roots in which everything started. Without Abraham, none of us would be here, and who knows where we would be. What if he had decided not to sacrifice that? What if he had withheld from God? But he didn't. He started the seed in which the tree had grown to become, what we are today, to become the church we are today. And it was because of him, and because he trusted in God's plan, that Christ was able to come through. And that's the way that we need to look at it. I mean, if Abraham was willing to so, blindly lead and have no questions, why should we ever question anything that's done, whether it be trials or whether it be anything else? Why should we question anything? Because we were never asked to leave, everyone we'd ever known at the age of 75. We were asked to have a son at 100 years old. We weren't asked to put the son that we were given at 100 years old up for a sacrifice. We're never asked anything to do too difficult beyond our own measures. But, because Abraham did all that God asked him, he lived a long life. Just like Deuteronomy said, do all the Lord commands and you will live long in your days. These are the years of Abraham that he lived a life, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in a ripe old age, a happy man, a happy old man satisfied with life. He was gathered to his people. 175 years. Starting at the age of 75, he started walking with God. And he was fearful, he was obedient, he spoke. And, that's not too different than what we do today. I mean, we speak with God every time that we're in prayer, and we walk with God every time that we're in the path of righteousness, and we're choosing to do the things that we should. And because of these things, Abraham was called the friend of God. And it's not that he was created, any differently than you or I. Abraham was chosen on a very, very, specific principle that God felt like he was going to command his house in the way they should. For I have chosen him so that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what was spoken. He chose Abraham because he knew that he would obey his commandments. When I read that verse, I kind of thought, in surgery, when they're choosing, new doctors and residents to bring in from medical school, ask, what's the application process? And they say when they talk to their references, they say what's this person do in stressful situations and how to do this. The biggest thing about being chosen to be a doctor is your ability to take a command and listen. They really want to form you to how they want you to do surgery. God chose Abraham because he knew he could form him and he would listen. He would mold him, and Abraham would bend but not break, and would follow God. So, what's the difference between how we're created and Abraham? Abraham wasn't created any differently than you or I. He was still had 2 arms and 2 legs. It's not like he was Christ. It's not like he lived in heaven ahead of time and knew everything was going to happen. He's just a man ready to listen, ready to obey, and concern the Lord in all that he did. So why can't we be a friend to God as Abraham was? Because we're really given the same opportunity that Abraham is. We can be a friend to Jesus the same way that Abraham was. Because Abraham commanded his household and lived the way that God wanted him to, he was called a friend of God. And we're given the same chance. John 15:14-16 starts and says, "You are my friends if you do what I command. No longer do I call you slaves, for a slave doesn't know what the master is doing. But I call you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father made you to me. You did not choose me, but I chose you. I have appointed you that you go and bear the fruit, and that your fruit will remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, you may do." It's pretty clear. Christ wants to be our friends so long as the commandment that he says is there. And he has such more basic commands than what Abraham had to do. None of us were asked to go and leave everything we were known at an old age. None of us were none of us were asked to give our only child or our firstborn up for a sacrifice. I mean, we have very basic demands. And not only that, we know what we're getting in the end. We know that we're working towards salvation. We know that our salvation leads to eternal life with Christ. And Abraham never knew what he was in store for. He just knew that if he went, God would take care of him. We know that when we're being persecuted as Christians, and when we're having a hard time and stressful times, we know that it's because we're followers of Christ, and we should expect it, and that the world's going to hate us. But for Abraham, it was God told me to do it, so I'm going to go. I'm not going to go today. We know that heaven's our final resting place, and we know that's our promised land. That's what we're going to expect, and that makes it so much easier. But being a friend of God is so easy, but the only alternate of not being a friend of God is kind of being the enemy of God. How Abraham always listened and never ever disobeyed, never questioned. He had no concern with the world. He was just focused on what God was going to give him. Not being a friend of Christ is being a friend of the world, and that only leads to condemnation. James 4:4 talks about being a friend of the world. Adulteresses, do you not know the friendship of the world is hostility towards God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself the enemy of God. To be a friend of God and to be a friend of Jesus is endless riches and being balanced. Abraham was multiplied, and because of Abraham, the entire earth was blessed. And being Christians, we have the opportunity to share that blessing. Being in the world just makes you hostile towards God. It kills you, literally kills you. The pleasures of the world just aren't worth it. When you look at it, Abraham's nephew Lot and his family were saved from Sodom and Gomorrah, but his, Lot's wife still wanted to be part of that and wanted to save part of the world, and it was simple, just like that. And as soon as she looked back to look at what was going on, to want to be part of that still, she was turned to salt, and it's the same thing. Is if we keep looking back at the world and what we used to have, it's not worth it. It leads to death. We can't serve two masters. We can't kind of have our hand with the world here and our hand with Christ here, because eventually it's going to come to a fork in the road. There's no serving two masters. You're either going to love one or hate the other, or hate one and love the other. We got to decide, are we going to live with Christ or are we going to live with the world? Which one is going to be, it's going to be the, worth the while. It all comes down to, we know what the world is going to give us, and we know what Christ is going to give us. But we know, while the world we can have fun in, and on this life we're going to have a ton of fun in the world and do whatever we want, but it's going to be great. If we live for Christ, we're probably going to go through some struggle, but the end result is everlasting life. We need to have faith that no matter how much fun in this world that we're going to have living in the world, no matter how great it's going to be, like what we were talking about in class this morning, eternal life goes one of two ways. It's either going to be a forever torture, or you're going to live in the forever grace of God. We need to have faith that the forever grace of God is going to outlast any kind of fun that we have here. Because, this life is just a vapor, but it's such a meaningful vapor that we need to always live faithful in Christ. Being a friend of Jesus is simply living for him. Even though it's just a vapor, that vapor was created by God in the sense of we need to worship God and bring those to him. Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. The life that I now live in the flesh, I live in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up. Christ gave his life up for us so that when the world comes to drag us down, his death and his resurrection is what saves us and keeps us from being eternally condemned. It was his life that was given for ours, and it even says that when the time comes, we need to choose: are we going to be crucified with Christ and have our sins taken away from the cross, or are we just going to continue to live in sin, live in death? Christ was put on the cross so that we don't have to continuously live in sin and death. But it comes to the point where it's either live with the world or you can be, the living sacrifice to God. Therefore, I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present yourselves and your bodies living and holy sacrifice, sacrifice acceptable to God, which is spiritual service and worship. Be a holy sacrifice that's acceptable to God. Christ gave himself up so that we could live forever. And when we choose baptism, we're dying on the cross for Christ. We're getting rid of that old life, and we're trying to kill the old man off and live a new life. The best way that I can kind of put it into an analogy is Christ said, greater love has no one than this, that one lays life down for his friends. I mean, Christ laid his life down and put himself on the cross. And it's almost like we need to make things equal with them. Because, we can live, baptism is killing our worldly man and being raised new. And if in the new we do what Galatians 2:20 says, and live by faith in the Son of God, and live as Abraham did, as commandments to the Lord, then we will be saved. Christ gave his life for us, and we're giving our worldly life for him. We're dying and killing the old man off, and we're raising to live in Christ. The moral of the point is kill the old man and live for Christ. Give up the fleshly world and die the spiritual death and live for Christ. Colossians 3:5 says that therefore consider the members of the earthly body as dead to immorality, impurity, passions, evil desire, and greed, which amounts to adultery. Colossians 3:10, put on a new self, being renewed in the true knowledge according to the image of what we created. Abraham knew that his faithfulness was going to get him through, and we're going to be friends with Christ as Abraham was a friend of God, so long as we love him and keep his commandments. And the path of righteousness is clear to us every day. The Word is a lamp to our feet and a light unto our path. It's very, very clear what's ahead for us. Abraham didn't always have that. It was the flip of the coin and hope things ended well. But his faith in God was that God has never lied to him. God had never cheated him. And so far, things turned out well. 175 years of life is pretty clear to show that if you do what God commands you to, and you walk with God every day in that path of righteousness, he's going to reward you. Right? While we might not live 175 years here, I think eternal life is pretty great. This world is pretty miserable sometimes. And to live here 175 years, or even Enoch lived 365 years. I mean, today, that sounds horrible with the way the world's doing. But eternal life with Christ forever sounds pretty great. And that's what we have to look forward to. Every single morning that we wake up, we have the opportunity that we have to serve Christ or serve the world. We're either going to live in a holy manner, acceptable to God as living sacrifices, as Christ has sacrificed for us, or we're going to die to the world and be sinful. And it's going to get to the point where Christ can't help us because we're going to be in single judgment. And every single day, you're going to have to choose the choice of, are we going to worship God today, or are we going to be sinful creatures? And it's at that point that we have to decide. Christ was a friend to us, and it's not a hard commandment to be a friend to him. And it's at the point we're going to offer an invitation to be Christ's friend, because the first commandment that he really gives to us is to obey him and to come to him and be baptized. Acts 2:38. Peter said to them, let each one of you be baptized in the name of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, so that you shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. And the gift of the Holy Spirit is the everlasting life. And it's just baptism away. It's just confession and baptism away. And he who has believed in our God shall be saved. But he who has disbelieved shall be condemned. If you started following Christ and you fell him away, everyone's been at a place in their life where we might have questioned God one too many times and just let us off the path of righteousness, but it's so easy to get back on. I mean, we're here as Christians to help each other walk through life, and if anyone needs anything, you just ask, be as Abraham was and fall on your face and just be humble to God, and God will hear you and confess anything. If anyone needs a baptism or they need to come forward, just come to be sinners, and